So picture this. You are 40 feet in the air, right?
Oh, right.
You're precariously balanced on the peaked roof of the Shrine of Savras. And the cedar shingles beneath your boots are they're actively catching fire.
Oh, yeah. Just black smoke billowing up everywhere.
Exactly, choking your lungs. And down below, surrounding the entire perimeter of the shrine, is this massive, highly organized army of orcs and ogres just screaming for your blood.
It's a total nightmare scenario.
It really is.
Yeah.
And right there on the roof beside you is Wiffer Brightblade, your party's Aasimar fighter. And he just took a brutal, jagged orc javelin straight through the chest.
Just a devastating hit.
You watch his eyes roll back. He is bleeding out. He is dead. So, what do?
You're completely stripped of all your tactical advantages. Your heavy hitter is down, and the environment itself is literally trying to kill you.
Right. Well, welcome to today's deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're pulling back the curtain on a world where death isn't just like a game over screen.
No, it is a massive metaphysical crisis.
Yeah. We are doing an exclusive, in-depth analysis focusing just on the pivotal events of Session 9 of this incredibly intricate Dungeons & Dragons campaign.
And we've got a massive stack of sources on the table today.
Oh, absolutely. We've got the official campaign recaps, the raw diagnostic character sheets for heroes like Wiffer and Boris, plus the comprehensive locations of interest guide and the official character compendium.
So our mission today is to really guide you through the life or death stakes of this specific session. We're going to break down the hidden lore, the underlying mechanical rules, and the heavy, unavoidable narrative consequences of the survival tactics this party employs.
So, okay, we're standing on that burning roof. Wiffer's physical body is cooling on the shingles. But bringing him back isn't just medical triage.
Right. It's way bigger than that.
Right. We are violently transported away from the heat of the material plane, arriving instantly in the bizarre, abstract realm of the outer planes.
Which is where Wiffer's soul has just manifested.
Yes. And the scene he witnesses as a newly separated soul is it's wild. He is standing in this cosmic waiting room, and there is a literal devil and a literal angel actively bickering over him.
Which completely subverts everything you'd expect from an afterlife sequence,
Totally.
Normally, in high fantasy settings, an angel and a devil might fight over a soul because they both want it. Like the eternal struggle of good and evil battling for a powerful mortal champion.
Right, the classic tug of war.
Exactly. But here, the tension comes from the fact that neither of them wants to take responsibility for him.
Yeah, the devil takes one look at Wiffer, scoffs, and just tells the angel to take him. The devil's argument is basically administrative.
Like, process him.
Yeah, he says, look at this guy. He reeks of radiant energy. He has wings. He's clearly one of yours. But the angel's reaction is what genuinely shocked me in the campaign notes.
Oh, it's so harsh.
It really is. The angel looks at Wiffer with utter disgust and calls him an abomination. So, okay, let's unpack this for a second. Yeah. Because I'm looking at Wiffer's character sheet. He is an Aasimar. By definition, that means he has celestial blood flowing through his veins.
Right.
Radiant energy is their entire brand.
Exactly, it's what they do.
So why on earth would an angel look at one of their own and reject him so harshly?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the angel isn't looking at a natural celestial being.
Wait, what do you mean?
So the angel points out the physical manifestations of Wiffer's soul in this realm. Yes, Wiffer has those trademark Aasimar features, the ethereal wings, the radiant aura, but the angel observes that these features are entirely synthetic.
Synthetic?
Yeah, they're completely artificial. In fact, Wiffer's celestial blood is literally screaming in pain just from making contact with the ambient air of the afterlife.
Oh, wow.
It is a completely unnatural, engineered state of being.
Synthetic celestial blood. That is such a haunting, deeply unsettling image. And it gets worse. As Wiffer looks down at his own soul, his spiritual anatomy in this plane, a full half of it is just missing.
They're completely gone.
It appears as a complete, terrifying blank space. I want you to imagine putting together a jigsaw puzzle, and you realize that half the pieces aren't just missing, but they belong to a completely different box.
Right, or consider the diagnostic landscape we're looking at. The soul is rendering like a corrupted computer file that only loaded 50% of its data architecture.
Ooh, that's a good way to put it.
The framework is there, but the substance is just hollowed out.
Which begs the question, how does someone walk around for decades with half a soul?
Well, if we look back at the official character compendium and the deep lore notes from earlier sessions, there is a very specific text that Wiffer's parents were entirely obsessed with.
His parents, the founders of Brightblade Iron X, right?
Yes. They were obsessed with this thing called the prophecy of the fused soul.
Oh, That's the prophecy that always seemed like, vague, poetic destiny stuff.
Right. We assume it's poetic until we see the diagnostic reality of the outer planes. The prophecy actually spoke of one fused soul that would be violently divided into two champions.
Oh, I see.
It stated explicitly that one of these champions would be radiant, an engineered dream touched by an angel, and the other would carry the infernal, destructive fires of hell.
Wow.
So what Wiffer is experiencing as he stands between this disgusted angel and this indifferent devil is the horrifying, literal reality of that prophecy. His missing half represents a massive void in his very essence.
So he isn't just a whole person destined for greatness.
No, he is a manufactured, incomplete anomaly.
That completely recontextualizes his entire life.
Yeah.
He's been walking around the mortal plane, fighting monsters, making friends, thinking he's just a guy dealing with a complicated corporate family history.
And suddenly he realizes his spiritual anatomy was fundamentally severed before he was even born.
Exactly. But as profound as that realization is, we really can't linger in the outer planes. Because back in the gritty, physical reality of the material plane, Wiffer's body is still on that collapsing, burning roof.
And he needs an immediate lifeline.
Right, and that lifeline falls squarely on the shoulders of Boris Rightwell, the party's deeply traumatized cleric.
Yeah, we should talk about Boris's mental state in this exact moment, because the sources paint a picture of a man in the middle of a massive theological crisis.
Yeah, Boris is a former sailor who survived a horrific shipwreck, an event he originally attributed to the chaotic, evil god of destruction, Talos.
Right.
But he recently discovered that his salvation was a lie. Talos had manipulated and altered Boris's memories.
So
That is essentially what Boris does here, but with cosmic consequences. Right there in the smoke, he officially chooses to devote his life to Tymora, the goddess of luck and good fortune.
yeah, and here's where it gets really interesting. Boris literally gambles his entire soul on the concept of luck.
He puts all his chips on a brand new deity while standing in a war zone.
Yes, and this desperate pledge grants him the sudden clarity, and specifically the luck domain, needed to attempt the spell Revivify.
But wait, we have to break down the mechanics of how this plays out, right? Because the campaign brilliantly forces the strict mechanical rules of the game to serve the narrative tension.
It really does. Revivify is a third-level necromancy spell, and the rulebook is uncompromising about the material components required to cast it.
You must provide diamonds worth exactly 300 gold pieces.
Right, which the spell instantly consumes to pay the cosmic toll of pulling a soul back to the living.
But hold on a second. Boris is a disgraced former sailor, currently fighting for his life on a flaming roof in a ruined town.
Yeah.
There is absolutely no way he has 300 gold pieces worth of pristine diamonds just jingling in his pockets. How does he cast the spell?
He doesn't have the diamonds. What he does have access to is Wiffer's own equipment, specifically the Brightblade battle belt.
Oh, that's right, the experimental belt.
Yeah, it's a powerful, highly experimental magical item Wiffer had recently acquired from the eccentric gnome inventors in Gnomengard. Wiffer is an Echo Knight, right? A fighter who manipulates alternate timelines to summon echoes of himself.
Right.
The belt features these rare crystal charges that act as a battery for those temporal abilities.
So Boris just reaches down, rips one of these crystals out of his dead friend's belt, and uses it to fuel the spell. Does the rulebook even allow that?
Well, the Dungeon Master allows the fiction to bend the mechanics in a way that makes logical sense within the world. Boris isn't just paying a toll with currency. He is violently hijacking temporal magic.
I love that.
By crushing that irreplaceable Brightblade crystal, he uses time magic to rewind Wiffer's physical state just enough to catch the soul before it permanently detaches. It is an arcane hack of a divine miracle.
That is incredible. It is a literal leap of faith. He gambles on Tymora, he shatters the crystal, the magic surges, and it works. Wimmer gasps, his eyes snap open, and his fragmented soul is yanked away from that bickering angel and devil, slamming back into his physical body.
The metaphysical crisis is averted, but, when the glowing magic fades, the party realizes they're still standing on a 40-foot roof that is actively collapsing from fire damage, with an army below them.
Right. Surviving death is just step one. They still have to survive the day.
Yeah, but the party rallies incredibly well.
They really do. With Wiffer back on his feet, they push back hard. They rout the remaining orc and ogre army, causing the enemy forces to break and scatter into the wilderness.
And then the adrenaline finally starts to fade, the dust settles.
The party is left standing, exhausted, in the smoking ruins of the Shrine of Savras. And this is where they pull off what I can only describe as the Golden Bell heist.
This sequence is a masterclass in shifting the tone from high-stakes combat to environmental puzzle solving rooted deeply in regional lore.
So as they're catching their breath, they investigate the shrine's belfry. The Locations of Interest guide reveals something bizarre about the massive 500-pound bell hanging up there.
Yeah, is it made of brass or iron like a normal bell?
The party uncovers this brilliant historical puzzle. This bell is actually cast from pure, solid, melted-down gold.
And to understand why a fortune is hanging in a ruined tower, we have to look at the history of the nearby ruined town of Conyberry.
Okay.
Centuries ago, a massive barbarian horde was sweeping through the region. The townsfolk were terrified, and they brought all of their collective wealth to this shrine for protection.
Right, they brought it to the priest seers of Savras, the god of divination.
Exactly. And the priests knew they couldn't fight the horde, so they helped the citizens hide their gold in plain sight. They melted down thousands of coins, cast them into the shape of a massive bell, painted it over to look like dull iron, and hoisted it into the tower.
It's the ultimate camouflage. An invading army is going to tear up floorboards looking for treasure chests. They aren't going to steal a heavy, useless iron bell.
It's brilliant.
But now, centuries later, our party has discovered the secret. The problem is, you cannot exactly stuff a 500-pound solid gold bell into your leather backpack and hike back to town.
No, the logistical challenge of moving heavy treasure is a classic adventuring problem. They solve it by getting incredibly creative with utility magic.
They use the minimize enlarge spell, or enlarge reduce, depending on your rulebook edition, to shrink this massive heavy bell down to the size of a teacup.
Just a tiny little thing.
Right. And once it's shrunk, they pop it perfectly into Vitrovia, the Tiefling Druid's pocket dimension bag. So, I mean, what does this all mean for their inventory management? Because in most games, a bag of holding is just a magic box where weight ceases to exist.
Yeah.
You dump infinite swords and gold into it and never think about the physics again. It's like using a zip file to compress a massive data download so it fits on a tiny thumb drive.
Right. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, this is where the campaign starts aggressively deconstructing the tropes of standard fantasy games.
How so?
The gold they just took isn't generic loot dropped by a defeated monster. It is the lost historical wealth of an entire regional population. They have essentially claimed a piece of history on cosmic layaway.
Wow. And Boris seems to recognize the weight of that theft. Before they finally leave the smoldering shrine, he stands before the altar and makes a very solemn vow to Savras.
He does.
He promises the god of divination that he will eventually return to restore the shrine to its former glory. He even leaves Sister Langolin, a nun they had rescued earlier, behind at the site to begin the long process of rehabilitation.
And that promise is crucial. It anchors the party to the political and divine realities of the world. They are walking away with immense wealth, but they are accepting a massive divine debt in return.
It proves that actions have weight.
Exactly.
Which brings us perfectly to the journey home, because the physical escape from the shrine is complete, but we are about to see that in this world, pulling a magical lever over here drops a very heavy weight over there. We are entering the hangover of heroism.
Yeah, the adrenaline wears off and the reality of their magical shortcuts sets in.
The party hits the road back toward the town of Phandalin. Along the way, they intercept young Thistle Barthen, who is walking alone down the dangerous road toward Conyberry.
Right, and Bajak, the flamboyant theater director and former pirate traveling with them, immediately steps in.
He tells her the road is entirely too dangerous and turns her around. They escort her safely back to Phandalin.
It's a really quiet, grounding moment of mundane heroism after the chaos of Gods and Gold.
Yeah. They finally reach the Stonehill Inn. They are battered, bruised, and exhausted. They rent rooms and collapse into bed. But it is not a peaceful rest.
Not at all.
Vitrovia, the Tiefling Druid, who has been carrying that pocket dimension bag, receives a deeply troubled dream visit from her contact, a fellow druid named Mipsy.
Mipsy reaches out through the dream state to deliver a very stern, urgent warning about the mechanics of the magic Vitrovia is relying on.
Mipsy tells her that their druidic circle, the Circle of the Moon, back home, is incredibly frustrated by Vitrovia's reckless use of the pocket dimension bag.
She has to remind Vitrovia that maintaining an extra-dimensional space isn't a passive, free magic trick.
Right.
It requires intense, active, physically exhausting nightly rituals by the circle back home to keep the walls of that dimension stable. Think of this pocket dimension not as a magical backpack, but as a deep-sea submarine.
Oh, that is an excellent way to visualize the arcane mechanics. The druids back home are the engines. They are constantly pumping, chanting, and sweating to keep the cosmic water pressure from crushing the hull of that submarine. When Vitrovia casually drops a magically compressed 500-pound solid gold bell inside it, and remember, earlier during the fire, she shoved the entire party in there to save them from the flames. She just added massive structural weight to that sub.
The druids back home are literally bleeding from the nose trying to keep the dimensional walls from caving in.
That is insane.
It really is, and it raises an important question about world building that every campaign should consider. Who pays the price for your convenience? The Dungeon Master here is strictly enforcing the laws of physics and magic in this specific world.
Vitrovia's bag isn't a video game inventory slot.
Exactly. It's a fragile, magically maintained ecosystem. The true insight here is that convenience in this world is heavily subsidized by someone else's labor.
It is a sobering reality check for the characters. You survive the orcs, you hack the timeline to cheat death, you pull off the ultimate heist to get the gold, but the bill always comes due.
Always.
Your clever survival tactics have literal ripple effects that are physically hurting the people trying to support you from the shadows.
Every single action we analyze today carries a heavy, unavoidable weight. Whether it's choosing to pledge your soul to a new god to save a friend, or stuffing a golden bell into a magic bag, the universe pushes back.
Okay, so let's briefly recap the wild ride of Session 9 we just unpacked. We started with the ultimate metaphysical shock, transporting to the outer planes to witness a soul torn in half, and an angel deeply disgusted by Wiffer's synthetic engineered celestial blood.
Then we watched a desperate cleric abandon his complicated past to officially choose Temora, hijacking temporal crystal magic to perform a mechanical and narrative miracle, yanking his friend back from the void.
We explored the brilliant magical heist of a 500-pound golden bell, shrinking a piece of Connieberry's tragic history right under the noses of a scattered army.
And it all concluded with the harsh truth delivered by the Circle of the Moon magic always demands a price, and extra-dimensional storage is built on the sweat and exhaustion of your allies.
It is an incredible sequence of events that pushes every single character to their absolute limits, forcing them to make choices they can never take back.
Really unforgettable.
But before we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to leave you with a final, lingering thought to mull over. It goes back to that terrifying, abstract image in the outer planes.
The missing soul.
Yes. If Wiffer's soul is visibly missing a full half in the afterlife, if 50% of his spiritual architecture is just a blank void, what exactly is occupying that empty space while he walks around the physical mortal plane? We know that nature and magic absolutely abhors a vacuum. So is there simply an empty cavern inside him, or is something unseen, something waiting quietly in the dark, already starting to fill that empty space?
When you realize a vessel is half empty, you have to wonder who else might try to pour themselves into it.
Exactly the kind of question that keeps you awake at night. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the raw sources of the campaign. Keep questioning the lore, keep looking for the hidden mechanics behind the magic, and never stop exploring the complex layers of your own adventures. Catch you next time.